awardee for tonight, Mr. Mohammed Nami, FCTI, FCNA, ACIS, the Executive Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service.
On Saturday, the 6th of May, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICAN, held its 2023 annual dinner and awards, at which deserving individuals and organizations were recognized and rewarded for their support to ICAN and their contribution to the growth of the Nigerian economy. Mr. Mohammed Nami, Executive Chairman FRS, Chairman Joint Tax Board and President, Commonwealth Association of Tax Administrators, was presented the ICAN Merit Award in the non-member category. The personality and character of Mr. Nami shined through as he was called forward to receive the award. A crowd of staff and well-wishers surged forward and filled up the stage.
Mr. Mohammed Nami, FCNA, FCTI, is the Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS. He has over 3 decades experience providing audit, tax management, advisory, and management services to clients in the banking, manufacturing, public sector, and not-for-profit organizations. Mohammed Nami attended Bayero University, Kano, and Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. He's a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria and the Association of National Accountants of Nigeria. He's also an associate member of the Nigerian Institute of Management, Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers, CIS, as well as graduate member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICAN. The reforms he implemented at the FIRS attest to his dexterity, visionary leadership, and patriotism. Under his visionary leadership, the FIRS in 2022 achieved an unprecedented revenue collection of 10.1 trillion naira, which is the highest tax collection ever made in the history of the country.
It is my privilege, honor, and pleasure to present this award to my very good friend on behalf of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. We thank you very much for all you have been doing to us, for your passion for the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, for what you are doing in FRS, and for your assistance in identifying with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria.
And Mr. Nami was in good company. Governor Odom Emmanuel of Akwa Ibom State, Mr. Kunle Elebute, formerly of KPMG, Honorable Mrs. Olubunmi Adeluba, Speaker, Ekiti State House of Assembly, and Pedabo, a friend of this program. What does this award mean to Mr. Nami?
Well, thank you to ICAN for being part of my life in the last 3 decades, from my life at PKF to my work at Manam, and now at FIRS. At FIRS alone, I was opportuned, or I'm opportuned, to work with over 3,000 chartered accountants. Over 350 of them came during my tenure, and I met over 2,000 there, and there are consultants too. So this means a lot to me. I cannot thank ICAN enough. It means that being a professional body, they have stock that they take regularly of the people that are contributing positively to the development of this country. And I'm happy that they have decided or resolved within themselves to reward hard work that we do as a team in the Federal Inland Revenue Service. We remain proud of that, and we cannot thank them enough.
The goldfish, they say, has no hiding place. Surely we agree with us that under the leadership of Mr. Nami, the FRS continues to soar. In a related development, earlier in the week, precisely on Thursday, the 4th of May, the Executive Chairman FRS was named winner of the Business Day Excellence in Public Service Awards 2022 at the Business Day Newspaper States Competitiveness and Good Governance Awards. Welcome to our Tax Education Corner. It's mid-year and the countdown has begun for the filing and payment of companies' income tax for companies whose accounting year is January to December, as with most companies. The Companies Income Tax Act mandates companies to file and pay companies' income tax 6 months after accounting year end. So, if your company's accounting year is January to December, then by June 30th, your company's income tax is due. We must emphasize, as we have done severally on this program, that accounting year is your choice as long as it consists of 12 months. Only banks are mandatorily expected to use January to December. So, you have only few weeks left. The first step is to get the accounts of the company audited by a qualified chartered accountant, after which a registered tax practitioner takes over the tax computation and filing with the FIRS. May 29, 2023 is the handover date of the reins of government from President Muhammadu Buhari to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Every government everywhere in the world needs money to perform its duties and bring about much needed development. A few episodes ago, we began a series on what we tagged Setting an Agenda for Mr. President. On this episode, we want to kickstart another series, this time on diversifying the Nigerian economy. Of course, there have been tremendous efforts made in recent years, especially at the federal level, to diversify the base of the Nigerian economy, as evidenced in the higher percentage contribution from non-oil sources over and above oil sources. We have spoken to leading lights in Nigerian economic space to get their perspectives on how to diversify the Nigerian economy. It is a 4-part series. We begin with the background to it all. Enjoy it!
Nigeria. With a land mass of 923,768 square kilometers, Nigeria is located on the Gulf of Guinea on Africa's western coast. With a population of 206,139,589 by year 2020 estimates, Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa. It is commonly believed that 1 in every 5 Africans is a Nigerian. At present, Nigeria is reputed to be the biggest economy in Africa in terms of nominal GDP, followed by Egypt and South Africa. The Nigerian economy consists mainly of oil, agriculture, mining, telecommunications, and services. The oil and gas sector accounts for about 10% of gross domestic product, and petroleum exports revenue represents about 86% of total exports revenue. Oil was discovered in 1956 at Oloibiri in the Niger Delta region of Nigeria after half a century of exploration. Nigeria subsequently joined the ranks of oil producers in 1958 when its first oil field came on stream, producing 5,100 barrels per day. Nigeria soon became an oil exporting country, with an exponential increase in its earnings from oil coming in 1973 and 1974 during the oil embargo ignited by the Arab-Israeli War. Arab members of the OPEC had imposed an embargo on the United States of America in retaliation for the decision of the US to resupply the Israeli military and to gain leverage in the post-war peace negotiations. There was a quantum leap in the contribution of crude oil to Nigeria's total export from 2.7% in 1960 to 73.7% in 1971, when the country became a member of the Oil Cartel, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. Since then, the contribution of oil to total export has always been on the increase, except minor fluctuations in 1978, 1982, 1984, and 1986, respectively. Arab OPEC members also extended the U.S. embargo to other countries that supported Israel, including the Netherlands, Portugal, and South Africa. The onset of the embargo contributed to an upward swing in prices. The price of oil per barrel first doubled, then quadrupled. Nigeria was awash with petrodollar. And sadly, as a result of that, all other previous productive and lucrative activities took backstage. Bye-bye the groundnut pyramids, bye-bye palm oil, bye-bye cocoa, bye-bye timber. Today, decades later, the story has changed. Oil can no longer carry the burden of Nigeria. From a height of $109 in 2008, $99 in 2011, and $100 in 2013, oil per barrel on the international market today is on the decline. Other prevailing realities include incidences of huge unsold inventories, fluctuating oil prices which affect budgetary projections, reduced production outputs brought on by local and global phenomena, new oil discoveries, exploration of alternative sources of energy, and the impending reality of depleting oil deposits added to the scourge of oil theft and the damaging environmental impact of oil industry activities. The precarious situation has been further exacerbated by the discovery of shale oil by the US and the consequent stoppage of the purchase of crude from Nigeria by the US in 2014. And out of the blues, the COVID-19 pandemic further threw a spanner in the works. With all these cascading developments, there is now an urgent need to diversify the economy and to look for other viable sources of revenue to sustain and grow the economy.
Is Nigeria a mono-product economy?
Nigeria did not start as a mono economy. Any student of history will know that the North was very rich in groundnut and also cattle. The East, palm oil, and the West, cocoa. So we had agricultural base. And the leaders at that time optimized the development and utilization.
We've designed ourselves such that government revenue has been focused on oil. Foreign exchange earnings have been focused on oil, but we're a multi-product economy. If you think back into the history of Nigeria before the early 70s, we had a multitude of products and products that we externalized for foreign exchange earnings, for the regions, and for the country. When oil then came and we focused on oil, maybe because it was easier to extract oil, everybody kind of tunneled into oil production. All of the states tunneled into oil receipts and became a bit lazy and non-creative. And so that's why we found ourselves in this problem.
Before the advent of oil and gas, mining was the mainstay of the economy. And at that time, mining was doing up to 12% of the GDP. But since discovery of oil, we've drifted away from mining. And I think 1972-73 indigenization decree, we sent the remaining companies that were operating in Nigeria packing in the former sector, because most of them were foreign companies operating in the mining sector. So from then on, mining became mainly artisanal. We did not have formal companies. And artisanal miners, by their definitions, are Nigerians, and but then in the informal sector. while we do not consider them as illegal, they are quasi-legal. But having said that, a lot of credit is lost to the mining sector because some of the revenue being generated from the sector is not credited to us. Rather, it's credited to the industry. For instance, look at the cement companies in Nigeria. At the end of the year, they declare so much in terms of profit after tax. They pay each taxes to government. These cement companies are essentially mining companies. About 95% of what they use, what goes into their operation, is from mining. They mine all the products. Even now, gypsum is available in Nigeria. We want to encourage them to now mine gypsum locally or buy from people who mine gypsum locally, so you don't have to import that. So if a company is mining based 100%, but when the revenue that's derived from such company is attributed to other sector. We've discussed this with Ramfac, but nothing seems to have been done yet.
From the point of view of the structure of our output, the structure of our GDP, we are not exactly a monoproduct economy. Oil accounts for sometimes even less than 10% of our GDP. The agricultural sector accounts for about 23% of our GDP. The distributive trade sector accounts for about 16% of our GDP. You know? So if you look at the structure of the economy, the degree of participation of citizens in the various sectors of the economy, the structure of employment across sectors, you will see that the economy is not exactly a monoproduct economy.
It's an economy that is a growing economy. It is diversified, truly diversified. The Nigerian economy's contribution of oil is today about 8%, which means 92% of the economy is from the non-oil sector. So yes, government over time has a large dependency on oil revenue, but even that has changed. Between 1999 to 2006, the oil revenue used to contribute 80% to the national budget. But it began to improve gradually, and so between 2007 to 2014, it was 70-30. As at 2018, the oil and gas industry was contributing 50 and non-oil was contributing 50. As at the end of 2020, the contribution of oil and gas sector has gone down to 45, and the non-oil sector is contributing 55. So it's an economy that has a lot of potential. We have to work more on strengthening our macroeconomic indicators and grow the economy at a rate that is much higher than the growth of our population.
First is the revenue accruing is not the central bank's money. It's the money of the federal government of Nigeria. And the more common one that everybody likes to talk about is the oil revenues, which is through the NNPC largely. But we forget that when they say the price of crude is $40 or $50, it's not that amount of money that comes to the government. While we're looking at oil as a significant means of revenue, it actually pales in comparison to the other ones that are got locally. The main sources of revenue locally are the customs, which is on duty and excise. In other words, paying for bringing things into the country. And then you have the other big player who these days contributes the most for non-oil revenue, and that is the federal inland revenue.
Oil revenue contributes to about 65% of total government revenues, and also about 90% of our foreign exchange earning. Oil plays a very significant role in the balance of resources in our country. But what is also true is that there are growing number of areas that are making progress, that are adding more revenue into the coffers of government, and we're happy this is happening because oil and gas will continue to remain the enabler sector of our economy, so that it creates a new wealth in a way that enhances the recovery of revenue from other sectors.
Today we have upwards of 8 different classes of taxes that we currently collect, ranging from company income tax, petroleum profit tax, value-added tax, education tax, capital gains tax. We also have a levy, National Information Technology Development levy, signature bonus. We also have penalty for gas flaring. We also have a lot of them that have been in the industry, like the licenses that we grant to taxpayers in that industry, such as oil exploring license. We also have oil mining license. We also have pipeline licenses and fees, royalties, rent, all put together. So these are the taxes that federal government collects.
Which way forward? How do we diversify the base of the Nigerian economy? Next episode, on the next installment of this series, we will take off with taxes collectible by states and the Federal Capital Territory. You are still on to Tax Matters. Earlier on in the introduction, we talked about filing and payment of companies' income tax by June 30th by companies with accounting year January to December, as well as putting you on notice as to the role of the registered tax practitioner in it all. The CITN is the body empowered by Nigerian laws to regulate the practice of taxation in Nigeria. In this regard, the CITN keeps a register of qualified tax practitioners. On Saturday, the 29th of April 2023, 682 new members were inducted into the ranks of registered tax practitioners in Nigeria. It was the 48th induction to be held by the Institute. The guest speaker at the induction ceremony, Mr. Olaniran Olatono, had words of encouragement for the inductees.
Yes, you are a professional taxman today. You, however, need to know that this is just a beginning. You have to build on the foundation by living a life of continual learning. Rather than resist, please be eager to embrace positive changes. Be fast to know what is going on and where the profession is headed. The tax world has become so wide. When we were training, you do everything together. You do audit, you do consulting, you do tax, you do everything together. But when you look at petroleum tax alone, it's something entirely. Transfer pricing, people are now specializing, and it's good because if you want to be thorough, you need to have a kind of specialty. But may I also encourage you to not to be narrow-minded, such that you lack the curiosity to know what is happening on the other side.
The new registrar of the CITN, Dr. Lanre Olasukomi, presented the new inductees to the president of the Institute for induction.
Mr. President and the members of our table, I have standing before you 682 members, comprising of 206 graduate students, those who wrote the Institute exam. And we have 476 direct membership, 26 are lawyers, 12 from conversion from ACCA, 167 from ICAN, 256 from ANA, and 15 senior inspector of taxes. With the permission of the President, and in line with Part 3, Section 8 and Section 9 of our Charter, I present and I recommend the standing inductee for your approval for me, Registered Chief Executive, to include their name in the register of the Institute. Thank you, sir.
In my keynote address earlier on, I emphasized the need for you as would-be members of the taxation profession to eschew all forms of professional misconduct and uphold the integrity of the Institute in all your dealings. This admonition should be taken seriously as the Institute's Council frowns at any conduct deemed to be at variance with the Code of Ethics for members. On this note, distinguished inductees, by the powers conferred on me as the President and Chairman of Council of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, I hereby call on inductees who are presently upstanding to raise their right hands and take the oath of allegiance as follows. I do solemnly swear that I shall always comply with the provisions of the Institute's charter, bear true allegiance to the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, obey all rules and regulations of the Institute from time to time. So help me God.
Awards were presented to students that excelled in the Institute's professional examination, which led to their induction. The 48th induction ceremony was preceded by a 3-day pre-induction orientation program held from Wednesday the 26th to Friday the 28th of April 2023. We must say congratulations on several fronts to Mr. Nami for his 2 awards and to the new inductees of the CITN. And it is on that note that we draw the curtains on this episode of Tax Matters. Thank you for watching. See you next week.